Hey y'all, welcome to Coyote Trapping School podcast number 12. Today we're going to be talking about scent control, something that's liable to make you fist fight with every other trapper out there, because everybody's got their own opinion just like everybody else, and some people say it's bogus, don't worry about it. Some people say that's the gospel and you better not think about anything else but that. And personally, I probably fall somewhere in the middle, but I'm going to give you my opinions and kind of my thoughts and how I see things and how I do things. Like I say, it's what I always do. That's the only thing I can do. So just from my experience and how I see things and how I do. And first off, I wanted to thank everybody that's left a review or rating in iTunes. We've got 12 awesome iTunes reviews and also a bunch of 5-star ratings. We got one 1-star rating, which tells me I'm doing something right, because if you're making everybody happy and nobody's complaining, then I kind of feel like you're not pushing hard enough, or you're not being true to yourself. Maybe, I don't know, but if somebody out there's getting kind of been out of shape, then that's probably you might be doing something right. So anyway, that's what I tell myself. But I was gonna read one review and just say thank you. This is Nick Curriton on iTunes, and Nick, if you will message me, send me an email, Chris@Coyote Trapping School, message me, Facebook, Instagram, whatever. I'll get you hooked up with a Coyote Trapping School shirt. I really appreciate y'all leaving reviews and ratings, and that helps to boost the podcast in the iTunes algorithm and help more people see it. So Nick just said, it's good info is the title. I like that this has information to assist individuals who are new to trapping or who have taken a few years off and need a bit of a refresher. It's not technically overwhelming, but it has enough information to increase my knowledge base every time I listen. I appreciate how passionate about wildlife and conservation it is, and I think it does a good job at portraying how modern day trappers and sportsmen care so much about our animals and the environment. And that's exactly what I'm trying to portray with this podcast, with everything I do here at Coyote Trapping School. I want to help anybody that's interested in trapping to get into trapping any way I can. I want to further the sport, and I want to encourage people to get in if they are interested. And so that's what I try to do. And I also want to toe the line and put out there that trappers are conservationists. We are not bloodthirsty, ruthless killers that everybody makes us out to be. We want there to be game out there for generations to come, so that, yes, selfishly we could pursue it, but also that everybody else can enjoy it. And so I appreciate that, Nick. I appreciate the kind words, and I don't want to sound like I'm trying to toot my own horn, but that's all the reviews are very nice. That they're very encouraging. I didn't cherry pick that. That was a random pick. But, man, I really appreciate it. I appreciate all that y'all do listening and leaving comments. And hopefully I can continue to be a good resource and a positive force in the public and in the trapping community in general. So, all right, let's get down to business. Scent control. And when we're talking about scent control, we're primarily talking about when we're pursuing and trapping canines, right? If you're water trapping, scent control is not really of a concern. Coon trapping, a lot of times even bobcat trapping. If you're solely pursuing bobcats, especially in the Rockies and out west where bobcat prices are real high, you want to do anything you can. And I'm saying this as never having done it, but my perception from reading articles and talking to people is, you want to try to deter coyotes or anything else from getting in those sets. And one way to do that is by giving them something to be alarmed about. And if your traps smell a little bit like human hands, then that may be enough to drive off a coyote, but not necessarily a cat. So that's what we're talking about. We're talking scent control. We're talking about canine trapping. And there are kind of two aspects. Typically when you talk about scent control, you're talking about gloves and what you wear on your body. But probably before that, your first method and your first thing to consider when you're considering scent control is your traps. I mean, that's part of the reason that we treat our traps, right? Part of it is we want to make sure those traps last as long as possible, and so we're doing what we can to protect them from the environment. And I know if you see some of my traps, my traps get used and abused, as I think most trappers do. There's some folks that are pretty meticulous. I am not one of them. I expect I'm not afraid to pay to get good quality equipment, but I expect that equipment to perform, and I don't expect that equipment to need to be babied. If it needs to be babied, I need something else, because I'm rough and you might look at my equipment and say that it shows, but I try to whittle things down to where they work for me. And but that's, scent control is treating the traps is as much a scent control as it is trying to preserve them and make sure that they'll last in the environment that we're setting them in, right? So and that can range. There's a whole array of different ways you can do that, and we've talked about that before: dyeing, waxing, dipping in some kind of dip. But that's those are ways when you clean them up, you get the grease off of them, and then you wanna treat those traps in some way to protect them, and also to protect them from the elements, protect them from foreign scents. And in addition to that is when you store them and when you're handling them after they've been dyed. So I try to, I just posted a post the other day on Instagram and Facebook looking for people's, reactions, or not reactions, but how do you store your traps when you're out on the line? Not when they're put up for the season, but when you're out running the line, how do you store them? I've got a small rubber toolbox, kind of a heavy rubber toolbox that I keep some traps in, and my predator traps, I've got a large, I think it's a pool chemical drum that has a screw-on lid, and then I'll pile all those in, screw that lid on, and so that's, I try to do what I can. My water traps, some of them I may just leave them in milk crates, but for my canine traps, I probably put them in something to keep any foreign odors from getting with them, and I try to not store my gas cans right on top of them as well. I try to keep things separated and try to take a little bit of precaution in making sure that those traps are kind of protected a little bit from picking up any kind of foreign odors. Another thing that I like to do is I'll take some pine needles, because pine trees are prevalent anywhere where I trap in the southeast, and so I'll take some pine needles, some fresh pine needles, crunch them up and throw them on the bottom, and maybe sprinkle them on top too, just to kind of, as they go in the your tote or whatever you're putting them in, try to put a little bit extra in there to kind of give them something to, hopefully they'll take up that smell. I've sprinkled dirt or peat moss on top of them before. Cedar limbs and cedar boughs is another one too that you can do. Just I may be a little bit overcautious, probably not, but I try to take some precautions in trying to ensure that my traps stay as scent free as possible. So the other aspect of scent control, kind of like we hit on to start with, and what everybody usually thinks of, is your handling and what you wear as the trapper, and how you interact with those traps and the ground that you're setting on. So and like I said before, this is a constant debate among trappers. There's folks that'll tell you don't need to worry about it, forget about it, and they set their traps barehanded while they're smoking a cigarette and spitting tobacco on the ground right beside their set, right? And they still catch game. Good for them. I personally am not quite that cavalier about it, so I wouldn't necessarily call myself over the top, but I do try to take precautions, because I know you're not fooling that animal. Whatever you think, no matter how many precautions you take, a coyote comes about, he knows you've been there. You're not fooling that coyote's nose. I looked up and saw that the average dog sense of smell is 10,000 times greater than ours. There's no way that coyote's coming by and can't tell that you've been there. No matter how quick you were there, how much rubber you wore, that coyote knows you've been there. So that's one of the things that I think, as your set improves the longer it sits, because excuse me, the longer it sits and the longer you're not messing with it, that's less scent. Your scent is steady dissipating from that area, so it's less likely to cause concern to a coyote, a passing coyote. So that's one of my things that I think is a plus to just letting traps sit. I don't want to mess with them and tinker with them and relure and rebait every 2 days or anything like that. Once I set them, I want to drive close enough where I can see that they've been messed with, and if they hadn't been messed with, I'm not messing with them, because every day that it doesn't catch anything, I feel like you're one more day closer to catching something, and as long as I'm not messing with it, that's less of my scent that's going to be in the area. So that was a roundabout way of saying that I do try to take as much reasonable precaution, I guess you could say, as possible. So you got 3 points of contact with the ground and the trap. You got your hands, your knees, and your feet. So for starters, with my hands, most trappers, like I said, there's a few trappers that are die-hard, bare hand setting, don't worry about anything. But I would say they are the vast minority. Most trappers are going to wear some type of gloves when they're trapping, and it varies from full rubber gloves to leather gloves. And then my personal favorite, I like these rubber palmed, kind of woven or nylon backed gloves. To me, especially trapping in the South in Georgia where I trap, there's going to be days in December and January where it's going to be 80 or 90 and I'm going to be sweating. So from that aspect, I like these gloves that let my hands breathe a little bit. And then also I like the rubber because, and there's no science that I know of. I haven't looked anything up to back it up, but that's why everybody wears rubber boots deer hunting and things, right? Is that rubber's not supposed to hold scents and keep scents. And so that's why I like the rubber palm, is because if I feel like that glove gets contaminated in some way or might have gotten contaminated, I'll just grab me a big clump of dirt or just take my hands flat on the ground and rub them around on that rubber surface that's going to come in contact with the trap to try to deodorize or neutralize any scent that may be on the gloves. Like I say, if that truly works or not, I don't know, but in my mind, that's how it works, and I feel like I've been successful like that, so that's what I continue to go with. And that's another question that I get asked a lot when people see my videos of me setting is, I typically don't switch gloves between setting and baiting and luring. I'm thinking about doing that a little bit this year just to see if it affects my catch any, because like I said, I feel like with the rubber I can keep them pretty clean, and I try to be careful not to get any lure or bait on the gloves themselves. Although I know they're probably going to pick up scent from going in and out of my lure bag. But typically what I do, like I said, especially after I lure, every time after I lure, when I get done, I'll rub them in dirt, rub dirt on them to try to, like I said, get rid of any of that scent that may be on there. Now, like I said, I can't say for sure that I'm not contaminating my sets going forward. I don't feel, excuse me, I don't feel like I am. I still see catches, but maybe I could get more catches like that. So weigh in, as y'all always do. Let me know your thoughts on that. What do you think about that? Am I crazy for not swapping gloves? When I first started, I did do that. I had a set of full rubber gloves that I would use for luring and baiting, and then I would use these other gloves. And honestly, I'm just kind of lazy, and I like having one set of gloves and doing everything with them, and not having to keep up with having my bait set flies out of the truck or whatever. So that's the hand scenario. I like wearing gloves. I like the rubber gloves. With the leather gloves, I would definitely say, and maybe this is contradicting myself, but if you're wearing leather gloves, I would definitely change gloves between setting and luring, because that leather's, if you get some scent on that, it's going to soak it up for sure. So I would have one set of gloves for setting and one set of gloves for luring and baiting, and be sure to keep those separate. Next is your knees. So unless you're just a killer stud and you can squat every time you make a set, you want something to put your knees on for kneeling down. And so, traditional is a gardener's type knee pad that you just pull out and sit down, kneel down on it, man. Kneeling, if you tried to squat and put a set in, and if you haven't, try it, because it's a pain. It's a whole lot easier to just kneel and go with it than try to squat and make a set. And so that's a pretty standard trapper's item. Typically, most trappers try to keep, they'll try to mark one side or the other, and so they know which side always goes down and which side always goes on the knees, just in case you get some kind of scent on your pant legs or something like that, and you're not all of a sudden putting that down and flip-flopping and could contaminate your set from that standpoint. Knee pads is one that I like. I like these. They're easy to clip on. They're pretty soft, and they're comfortable enough. I can wear them all day and have no issues. They got a hard rubber hard rubber surface, and the same with the gloves. If I feel like I might have got some scent on them, I'll just grab some dirt and rub it on them and brush it off and be ready to go. So I do like the knee pads. Or one thing that I typically do, if depending on what kind of line I'm running, is I like wearing hip boots all the time. If I know I've got some water sets out and I know I've got some, I kind of tend to run a mixed line, and I try to just keep my hip boots clean so I can hit my water sets, and then on my predator sets I can just kneel right down in my boots and go on about it and not worry about it. So that, for me, that kind of covers two birds with one stone with my hip boots, and then that covers my knees and my feet. And so the last area is your feet. So your feet are, wherever you go, you're leaving scent, right? So typically most trappers tend to wear or want to wear rubber boots for the same reasons that you may wear rubber boots while you're hunting. The rubber's not supposed to absorb or hold scents as well as some other boots. And so mine, I got to get some new ones, but mine, I really like muck boots. I don't know if any of y'all are fans of muck boots, and if you know of a boot that's better than a muck boot, let me know, because to me, these are just super comfortable. They get a little hot. In our southern winters, they can get hot, but I like these hip boots that have a kind of heavy-duty Cordura upper, and then the lower's muck boots. So my foot's good and comfortable in them, and I've still got my kind of waterproof. I'm careful where I wear them. I don't wear them to the gas station pumping gas. I try to keep them, limited to trapping and maybe some hunting. I try to, be careful about my scent control on them. And then, of course, some folks wear leather boots. I don't know as many people that wear leather boots while you're trapping, but there again, to me, that's something that if you're wearing them just for trapping, then it's probably okay. I had a good friend of mine that raised foxes for a little bit, and he said while he was raising foxes, he always wore his leather boots, because that's what he would go check his foxes and mess with his foxes. He would wear his leather boots out doing that, so they had a kind of a natural foxy odor to them all the time. So that probably helped him in his setting, just a little bit of added attractant. But to me, that's your major watch outs and your major points is with footwear. Really, whatever you use, if you're just careful with it, don't wear the same boots into the gas station and into the Walmart and then take them out on the trap line. If you do, or if you've just been on doing that, one thing that I'll do if I'm trapping in cow country is I'll try to find me as soon as I pull out on the farm, I'll try to find me a cow patty and go step in it and try to kind of mask any scent that may be on my boots. But like I said, from that, your boots, your feet are what you're concerned with. Your knees, making sure that you're not leaving too much scent on the ground there at your set location, and then your hands. You don't want to be leaving. You don't want to be leaving too much scent on the traps themselves, and then also, your hands are digging in the dirt, sifting dirt over. So you want those to be as scent free as possible too, because you don't want, when that animal, that coyote, when he approaches your set, you want him to be focused on your hole or your tuft of grass with urine on it or whatever your attractant is. You don't want him honing in on that and then all of a sudden dropping because he smells something in the dirt right in front of it. You want that to be as clean and unnoticeable and undistinguishable as possible, because that is what's going to get him to your bait or lure. And hopefully if he goes to your bait or lure, he's going into your trap to do that. So I hope that gives you kind of a little bit of a starting point. Like I said, everybody's got their own opinion. There's a bunch of different things you can use, but if you just take those couple things into account, absolutely you want to make sure your traps are clean and scent free. I would suggest having some kind of gloves to work with to try to continue to keep your trap scent free and your trap area scent free, and then your knees and your feet as well. Just being cautious about all that. May not be necessary, but to me, it can't hurt. As well as a coyote can smell, anything that you can put in your favor to try to reduce the odds of his concern getting raised when he passes by your set. Anything you can do to help that, to reduce his awareness of anything uncertain there is just better for you. That's going to increase your odds of catching that animal then or later on. So hope that's helpful. Hope y'all are out. I know some of you are trapping already, so good luck. I hope you're wearing out the animals that you're trapping. I'm getting ready soon. Got all my traps dyed finally. Got my stakes on them. Got them all dyed and dipped, and so just ordered my last little bit of supplies. One thing that I ordered, y'all let me know what you think. How if you've tried it, but I've been seeing a little bit about silver vine. So it's if you're unfamiliar with it, silver vine. I just saw it on I think Minnesota Trapline this year. It's a cat attractant that's supposed to be even more attractive than catnip, and it's just a powder from some vine in China or Asia. But it's supposedly super attractive to cats, and they sell it. I guess kind of like catnip. They sell it to for people with domestic cats as well. It's kind of an attractant, a chew stick, whatever domestic cats do. I don't know. I don't have any cats, but so I'm going to be trying out some silver vine. I'm hoping that it's going to be all it's cracked up to be, because that's one thing. If you've run any cameras on sets, and I've seen bobcats walk right by a set, even a nice big, visual set that you would think nothing could walk by, and that sucker will walk by like he's not worried about a thing in the world, like he could care less. So anything I can do to up my odds of catching cats or catching anything for that matter. So if you have used silver vine, give me a comment. Let me know if it's really all it's cracked up to be, or just another gimmick out there. And if you're interested in trapping, but you haven't started yet, you don't really know where to start, if you'll go to coyotetrappingschool.com/bonus, I put together a short ebook. It's a downloadable PDF that'll kind of give you a crash course in traps and how their size relates to what animal you may target with them, some of the different ways that you can trap and treat traps and what to do with them. It's just kind of a very introductory, like I said, ebook that you can get and kind of walk you through and hopefully get you started off on the right foot. So that's coyotetrappingschool.com/bonus. If you're interested in that, check that out. And as always, if you got questions, if you got suggestions for future episodes, shoot me an email, leave me a comment somewhere, DM me somewhere. Working on getting a couple guests lined up. A couple names that you would recognize if you've been interested in trapping lately. So I'm pretty pumped about that. Hopefully I'll have that nailed down by the next episode, and I can give y'all a heads up on that. I'm pretty excited about that. I think that's going to be good and bring a lot of value to you. So otherwise, y'all be safe out there, and happy trapping. We'll talk to you next time.